Hey guys, this is Noxulence, and I'm not gonna lie, I had no interest in watching Ironheart at all. The trailers didn't really seem all that appealing to me, and I lost all interest in getting to know Riri Williams as a character when a few years ago I saw the comic panels of Riri wanting to be looked down upon by others to prove that she can be great. However, I heard some discourse online about something that Riri said in the show about Tony Stark, that Tony wouldn't be as successful as he was if it weren't for the fact that he was rich and had
Okay.
access to a lot of resources.
She's bullshitting, bro. So much. Tony Stark, dude. He built he built an Iron Man suit in a cave with a bunch of scraps. Bro, come on, dude.
After hearing about that, a light bulb went off in my head. Since Riri's supposed to be Tony's unofficial successor, I decided it would be fun to watch Ironheart and rewatch the Iron Man movies, compare Tony's character to Riri's character, and decide whether or not there's any merit to what Riri claims. And I'd just like to quickly add a prefix to this by saying I'm going to be solely analyzing the
Ooh, this is gonna be a good video.
Iron Man trilogy and Ironheart because I want to focus solely on their own personal solo experiences. Now, with that out of the way, let's begin. Going into this, I didn't think Tony or Riri would have all that much in common because of them coming from different backgrounds, but surprisingly, they do. They're both intelligent inventors, they've both been self centered, they both initially rejected help from the people close to them before eventually accepting it, and they both want to revolutionize safety with their inventions. That being said, there are key differences between them that make Tony a
Iron Man
much
did
more
it
appealing
better.
character than Riri. Those differences being, Tony actually learns and develops from the mistakes that he's made while Riri doesn't. And Tony, even with limited resources, could still make a name for himself if he really tried, while Riri, with as much resources as MIT could allow her, still struggled to succeed. In Iron Man 1, Tony was someone who only really cared about having fun, always arriving late or not even arriving at all to certain events, meetings, or presentations that pertain to his company, Stark Industries. He never saw his company's distribution and manufacturing of weapons as bad, viewing the wars he contributes to as business and also viewing the production of weapons as keeping the peace. It's not until he's kidnapped by a group of terrorists known as the Ten Rings and sees that they have been using his weapons to hurt and control people that he realizes the consequences of his actions. After escaping from the terrorists and returning home, Tony immediately calls for the shutdown of his company's weapons division, having no desire to aid in the destruction of other people's lives. While he tries to improve the design of a suit of armor he created to escape the Ten Rings, Tony finds out that his company is selling weapons under the table to terrorists.
Damn.
Deciding to take responsibility for his company's actions and wanting to become a protector and not a destroyer, Tony suits up in his new suit of armor and takes down the terrorists. He then later goes on to fight Obadiah Stane, Stark Industries COO, after finding out he was responsible for selling the weapons to the terrorists. Stane, who had taken the parts of Tony's first suit to create his own suit, brawled with Tony before eventually losing the fight and dying. The fight didn't go unnoticed, as newspapers reported the story, giving Tony the name Iron Man. When he attends a press conference held to explain the sudden appearance of Iron Man, instead of lying and saying that he's Tony's personal bodyguard, Tony decides to take accountability of his actions and stand by them, revealing that he's Iron Man. In Iron Man 2, Tony becomes self-destructive after finding out that the palladium that powers his arc reactor is slowly killing him. He starts living his life more recklessly, having no desire to save himself or his legacy. He appoints his assistant Pepper as CEO of Stark Industries so he wouldn't be weighed down by the responsibility of running the company, and he allowed his friend Rhodey to steal his Mark II armor because Tony trusted him to use it for good once he died. He doesn't ask or want help from the
Damn, this guy is good with analyzing these movies because it's accurate. I don't see no flaw.
people who are close to him and accepts his fate. However, once he is given some of his father's old research and after watching a message his father left where his father expresses his love and hope for him, Tony wishes to continue his legacy and works to find a cure for his palladium poisoning. After looking through his father's research, Tony discovers a new element his father had discovered and is able to synthesize it and use it to cure himself. Once he finds out that a man named Ivan Banco was going to try and kill people, Tony suits up and accepts Rhodey's help in order to defeat him. And with their combined abilities, Tony and Rhodey were able to defeat Ivan, resulting in his death. In Iron Man 3, Tony suffers from PTSD and severe anxiety attacks due to the attack on New York that occurred during the first Avengers movie.
Yeah.
He starts becoming obsessed with creating new suits, believing that without his armors, he won't be able to protect himself or the people he cares for. His obsessive need to create more and more suits of armor, combined with his extreme paranoia, causes a rift to form between Tony and Pepper, who had gotten into a relationship at the end of Iron Man 2. Tony's house ends up getting attacked by a company called AIM, causing his AI Jarvis to fly him to Tennessee to escape danger. As soon as he arrives, Tony's armor runs out of power, causing him to be without a suit for the majority of the movie. While trying to combat both his anxiety and the agents of AIM that are trying to get him, Tony is forced to improvise and learn how to fight without his suits. By the end of the movie, Tony learns that his strength and value isn't tied to the suits, it's tied to his ingenuity, and that even without his armor, he will always be Iron Man. Throughout the Iron Man trilogy, Tony developed a lot as a person and completely changed from the selfish, laissez-faire playboy billionaire he was originally. He learned to take accountability for his actions and to use his technology to protect people instead of endangering them. He also learned that even though he's strong and capable on his own, he should rely on others for help when he needs it the most. Lastly, he learned that with or without his armor, Tony is still capable of helping people and doing incredible things. Because it's not the armor that makes him Iron Man, it's the man inside the armor that does. Tony's honestly one of, if not the best written and fleshed out character in the MCU, which honestly makes it disappointing that the legacy character was trying.
Yes, what he says is true, but in comics, Tony Stark is a piece of shit, dude. You know, majority of Tony Stark's Iron Man comic books, Tony is he is a disaster, depending on exactly which issue you're reading. But I personally I love I like how the MCU made the most hated character to the most lovable character because Tony shit. Comic book Tony Stark terrible. Like these writers couldn't even write a single good Iron Man comic book. Don't get me wrong, there's some good ones out there, but the majority of them aren't even good. But the MCU, they made this character lovable, bro. I remember watching this and like, damn, I like this Tony Stark. Hopefully they don't fuck it up. Wish they didn't. You know.
Trying to succeed him is not well written at all. Well, at least based on her show. I have no clue if Riri's written any better in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but after watching her show, I'm not in a hurry to watch it to find out. In Ironheart, Riri wants to be a better and more famous inventor than Tony Stark and wants to create suits similar to his to revolutionize rescue and safety. Unfortunately, Riri gets kicked out of her school, MIT, due to her being caught selling assignments to other students, on top of her attending a lot of disciplinary hearings prior. This causes a setback in her plan, though luckily for her, she finds an opportunity to earn money to repair a suit she was working on in MIT by helping a criminal gang commit heists. While repairing the suit, Riri accidentally creates an AI that is named after, resembles, and acts like her best friend Natalie, who died during a drive-by alongside Riri's stepdad, Gary. Throughout the show, despite being intelligent enough to make an iron suit that runs on solar and wind power, Riri constantly makes stupid decisions. For example, Riri finds out that the leader of the gang she's running with, Parker, has the ability to bend the path of bullets and turn invisible thanks to a cloak that he wears. Her AI, Natalie, scanned the cloak but has no idea what powers and allows it to give Parker these abilities. Despite having no counter to Parker's abilities in case he turned on her, knowing barely anything about the other members of the group, and having to steal from high-profile targets, Riri doesn't try leaving the gang until she finds out that the person she replaced, Stewart, was killed so they wouldn't have any loose ends. Another example of her making stupid decisions is her not asking for help until the last second. Riri is given many opportunities throughout the show to tell the people that are close to her what she's up to and the kind of problems she's facing, but she doesn't. She even has a contact in Wakanda, Shuri, who specializes in technology and would have a better idea of what technology the cloak might use more than Riri would. Despite these opportunities,
Bro, there's no way. I haven't seen the show. I want to watch it. I probably would watch it. But bro, if she has connections for Wakanda, damn, that's embarrassing.
Riri doesn't ask for any help until the last few episodes, and that's only when her suit gets destroyed and she has no choice but to rely on the people around her. And even then, she doesn't ask Shuri, who is a tech expert, for any kind of help whatsoever. I understand that telling Shuri what led her to calling would make Riri look bad and might possibly make Shuri not want to help, but she could at least try to convince her to help. One final example, and this is one heck of an example, is when Riri is faced with the person who gave Parker the cloak. 2 episodes prior, Riri finds out that the reason she couldn't find out what powers Parker's cloak is because it was made from magic. When she goes to fight Parker to take his cloak from him, Riri sees the negative effects the cloak has on Parker's body. However, when she's met with the cloak's original owner, a demon named Mephisto, she decides to hear him out when offering a deal to her. The terms of the deal are vague, but Mephisto promises to help Riri out in her endeavors in exchange for something that she won't miss. Despite knowing full well how horribly the cloak was influencing and hurting Parker, Riri actually makes a deal with Mephisto.
That's stupid.
You serious?
I kid you not, Riri makes a literal deal with the devil in order to help her achieve her goals. It would be one thing if she had no clue that Parker's cloak was harming him and that Mephisto was the person who gave it to him, but she does. I honestly don't know what the writers were thinking, but making Riri accept a deal with the devil is so incredibly stupid. And I would be somewhat willing to look past this if this was just one bad character moment, but it's not. Throughout all of Ironheart, Riri is shown to be a cocky inventor who is willing to put herself and the people around her at risk just to make it ahead in life. The gang that she's working with knew her name before she ever met them, so what would have stopped them from finding out where she lives and who she's friends with if they ever found out she was trying to leave them? And yes, she did give her mom and her friend Xavier something to protect them, but that wasn't until episode 4. She was already working with Parker's gang for 2 episodes prior to the 4th one, and she didn't even consider getting her mom and Xavier protection until an episode after she found out that the person she was
What a
replacing
fucking
died.
retard.
Are you kidding me with how stupid this is? Additionally, one of her friends, Zeke, got arrested for a crime that Parker's gang and Riri committed. Zeke helped Riri with her new suit and let her use this technology to get a sample of Parker's hood during the gang's next heist, and Riri promised that he wouldn't get caught up in her crimes. And you want to know what happens? He gets caught up in her crimes because she carelessly left his tech behind. Regardless of whether or not she felt bad about it afterwards, because of the fact that she got caught up in her criminal problems, she caused someone she considered a friend to get arrested because of her. And on top of the fact that she's a selfish character, she hardly ever learns from her mistakes. The single solitary thing she learned from all she went through was that she should rely more on the people around her. Now, mind you, all of her problems were caused by her making a deal with a bad person without thinking about the consequences. But instead of learning from that decision and trying a different and better way to earn money, what did she do? Make a deal with another bad person without thinking about the consequences. The show starts and ends the same way. Riri hardly develops as a character, and she's the one who's supposed to succeed Tony? Her name doesn't even belong in the same sentence as his. Sorry about that. Got a little bit heated there. I'll try to relax.
Nah. It's justified. It's so justified. Dude.
Before I end off this video, it's time I go over Riri's claim that Tony Stark wouldn't be as successful as he is right now without his billions. While there is some truth to it, Riri's fundamentally wrong about her assessment. Iron Man 1 and 3 goes to show how ingenious and resourceful he is when he has little to no access to his money. In Iron Man 1, Tony was able to create something that was crucial for both his survival and his future as a hero in a cave with a box of scraps. And as important as it was, I'm not talking about the Mark 1 armor. I'm talking about something way more prominent to Tony's story. I'm talking about the creation of the mini arc reactor. Now, I want you all to keep in mind that the fact that he was able to build it in a cave with a box of scraps isn't the sole reason why this feat is impressive. What makes it impressive is that Tony was able to create the mini arc reactor with no prior blueprints or plans to have built one in the past. He was able to remember how the large arc reactor in his company worked off the top of his head and was able to build a miniature version of it with scraps. Now, some of you may be thinking, but not, even though Tony did make it with a box of scraps, the scraps he used were made from billions of dollars worth of tech from
I mean, true, but you need to know shit in order to do that. That's a very impressive feat. You know, it's like I could have all the tools, right, to fix a car, but if I don't have the knowledge to fix a car, it's like, what's the point of having all these fancy tools, you know?
his company. Doesn't that prove Riri's point that he needs to have billions in order to be a success? And like I said earlier, there is some truth to what Riri was saying. Tony wouldn't be a success without his billions of dollars, but at the same time, if he lost his money and his company, Tony would be able to get it all back thanks to his ingenuity. The reason I say this is because, as I said earlier, Tony's shown to be able to work well with limited resources and very little access to his money. In Iron Man 3, Tony was able to take down and subdue trained armed terrorists.
Not only that, but this is the same guy that literally figured out time travel. So, yeah.
By creating weapons using hardware supplies and Christmas decorations. I repeat, he was able to create lethal weapons using hardware supplies and Christmas decorations. And that's something Riri could never understand because she's never witnessed it for herself. Tony Stark isn't a success because he inherited a billion-dollar company. Tony Stark is a success because he's Tony Stark. He may be cocky and a bit full of himself, but his genius and resourcefulness can back up his ego. Unlike Riri, however, who even with MIT having bent over backwards to aid her in her endeavors, felt like she didn't have enough resources to be great. And that's why, no matter what way you look at it, Riri Williams can never hold a candle to Tony Stark. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video and you want to show support, like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter and Odyssey. We're over halfway to 10,000 subscribers, so any and all support is greatly appreciated. Have a good night, guys, and until next time, lights out.
Nah, guys,
Today,
follow
every
him.
business needs a web.
You know what?